Okay, welcome to the AdaptX Podcast, where we have conversations with individuals building accessible businesses, advocating for inclusion, or excelling in adaptive sports. Our intention is never to speak on behalf of those with disabilities, but to provide a platform to share their ideas and amplify their voice to a more accessible world. Today I'm joined by Alexia Michitti, a senior at SUNY Oneonta, and the founder of Em13race LLC, a pioneering adaptive clothing company for people with limb differences. Born without her right hand, Alexia's personal experiences drive her mission to create innovative solutions for adaptive fashion. She's also a motivational speaker, sharing her journey to inspire and empower others. In the sports arena, Alexia serves as co-captain of the U.S. women's Amputee soccer team, where she was a standout player in the inaugural team at the September 2023 event in Poland, earning game MVP honors. Alexia is set to compete with her team in the first ever Women's Amputee World Cup this November. But Alexia, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So all the way out from the edge of New York, couple-hour drive?
Yes.
So I appreciate that. In person is always better than remote when possible. So you've always competed in, for lack of a better term, I guess, traditional sports. Were you resistant to adaptive sports? Were you unaware of the opportunities? Or maybe did your skill not prevent you from needing an alternative, and so you competed with your peers? So I guess, what was your early soccer days like?
Yeah, so when I was little, I played travel soccer. I played with everyone else. My parents were very encouraging and pushed me to be like everyone else around me, regardless of my difference. And so I played basketball, I played softball at one point, I did all the things. I even played football on the playground with the boys, all of the different sports. So I never really felt like I was held back from my disability growing up, but I definitely did face challenges as time went on. When I got to the college level, I was more aware of the opportunities that I had in the disability sports world, and so I definitely took advantage of that when I found out.
Do you think you gravitated to soccer because your limb difference didn't really affect it in any way, as opposed to things like basketball or softball?
So I'm Italian, so my whole family played soccer. So I think it was more of a cultural thing. I was not forced into it, but heavily encouraged to play. And I enjoyed it. When I first started, I did not like soccer. I wanted to quit. But I gave it a try again, and I fell in love with it again. So
we hear from different guests based on when they were introduced to adaptive sports. I guess some people, it wasn't available where they were, or they grew up in a different kind of decade where it wasn't as popular as it is now. Were there opportunities in high school for you to get into adaptive sports, but you just opted to compete at the high school level? Or?
Yeah, so not really where I went. There was, they called it a unified basketball program.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have qualified to be a player, but they had people with non-disabilities working with people that did have them in parallel with each other. But it happened during COVID, so COVID shut the whole thing down. I believe they're doing it again, but I didn't really have any opportunities like this to participate in growing up.
The unified basketball is actually my first introduction to disability. When I was a sophomore in high school, I broke my wrist and I couldn't play basketball. So my mom was like, "Oh, why don't you volunteer at this new program that they're launching in the district?" And that's actually was kind of my first introduction to anyone with a disability. And I just love the environment. I love the relationships. It seems unique compared to the hyper-competitive landscape of, I guess, just high school as a whole. And I found that to be really refreshing. So not that it's just all about the social piece. There's definitely athletes that compete competitively, but something about Special Olympics really drew me in, and that greatly influenced, obviously, the career that I've pursued now. But what was it like growing up as a child, maybe elementary school, middle school, high school? The dynamics, social dynamics change. So what was it like growing up with a visible difference among your peers?
Yeah, so there was definitely different phases as I grew up. Like I mentioned before, my parents, I guess you could say they had two options. They could feel kind of bad for me and not baby me in a sense, but not really push me to the best of my ability. Or they could say, "Hey, look, you were born like this. What are you going to do about it? You could take the world by storm and just see what you can do and have no limits." And that's the path that I chose. So growing up, I did get bullied a lot, based off of the way I looked. It's something I can't control. So I mean, as many bullies as there was, you always find and remember the good people that there were. So definitely did face some challenges when I was younger. I think as I got older, I had more adults and adults in general I've had more trouble with,
Really?
which is surprising.
Yeah.
You'd think, but definitely adapted a lot, and I had great friends growing up, and still to this day they were very supportive and helped me if I needed anything. So,
I
yeah.
think that's one of the questions that I kind of mull in my head the most. I have a 2-year-old and a 9-month-old, and I'm really interested in how I can help them grow up to be the person that like embraces someone with a disability and difference instead of being the one that contributes to like the ostracization of people with disabilities. So yeah, I guess I hope just them being around it a lot through our gym and various things just makes them view disability as a natural part of life instead of something that should be addressed and acknowledged. But yeah, how can family members and friends, I guess, effectively support someone who has something like a limb difference?
Yeah, so I think for me, my family, they don't step in right away if they see if I'm struggling with something, maybe if I'm having a hard time, but they know that they make it clear to me that they're there and available if I do need the help, which is awesome. I'm fortunate enough to have accessibility to prosthetics and stuff like that growing up, even things down to like my sister braiding my hair, like small things like that, you really appreciate it, to my dad tying my shoes before soccer games, stuff like that, so everything, like just the little things, we're living in a two-handed world, so you definitely have to learn how to adapt, and there's a lot of patience. I think I have to give him a lot of credit for being patient with me. Sometimes it does get frustrating with some things you're trying to learn, but I'm lucky enough to have a support system that is willing to help me in any cases that I do need.
Did you have anyone that you looked up to in terms of sports or parasports that like resembled you or represented you?
Yeah, so Jim Abbott and Bethany Hamilton, I would say, were the two bigger people when I was like younger kid age, that I looked up to. I actually got the chance to meet Jim Abbott. It was like the week before I started kindergarten, and he gave me some tips on how to tie my shoes, which was pretty cool. Um, but with that, they were people that weren't very accessible to see every day, So although I did get the chance to meet Jim Abbott in person, and he even gave my mom and dad his email and said, if you ever need anything, please reach out. I think that's one of my biggest personal goals in my life now as a young adult, is being that role model for younger kids and just being accessible and being able to connect with people who are living with a difference and just be able to answer small questions, anything they need. I was at the Lucky Fin Project over the summer, and this little girl, I was teaching her how to put her earrings in with one hand, little things like that. I think it's super important. I'm just an everyday person.
Yeah, you mentioned Lucky Fin Project. There's other things like Camp No Limits
Yeah.
as well. Like what are some organizations that if one like a youth who has a limb difference wants to get involved that they could access, or maybe if someone like myself wanted to volunteer or support an organization that does great stuff, are there any that you would recommend?
Yeah, so Lucky Fin Project is one I work with the most. They were there way before I met them in high school, and I saw it on social media. They are a big one that I think for upper limb difference specifically. There's a lot of sports camps now. I think Nobility and Camp No Limits. Those are some other ones that are great for sports. I know they have opportunities for kids, obviously, with limb differences, I think, or in any type of disability. And then they accept volunteers as well, too. So I think that's always awesome if you don't have a difference, but you still want to be involved. That's a great way.
Yeah, I always encourage people, obviously, because with my experience of having disability exposure to then having like a life-changing event at Special Olympics, I always encourage people to try to get involved with those organizations when they can. How do you think being born with a disability that requires a prosthetic differs from acquiring a disability like later in life, I guess?
Yeah, so I was born without my right hand, so everything just came naturally, putting my hair in a ponytail, tying my shoes. Like I said, those are the main examples I use because those are things you have to do every day. I think those are a lot easier. I got my first prosthetic when I was in first grade, and I hated it. It was body powered. I actually got it at the Shriners Hospital in Springfield. They were great there. Nothing against the prosthetic. It just wasn't for me. Later on, I got a myoelectric prosthetic, so it could open and close like this if I moved my hand. I do have movement in my hand too, which helps me doing stuff. But I just found it harder to use a everyday prosthetic. Now I've switched to activity specific with a weightlifting specific prosthetic because that's what I needed. I think losing a limb specifically later on in life would be completely different. You know, you're completely shifting the way you live day to day. So, yeah, personally, it's natural, so it's easier, but...
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it made your childhood and adolescence easier, but I guess, like, if it's your normalcy, if your baseline for normal is just not being able to access one hand, then your world's not really shifted upside down when that happens. So, but obviously, lived experience, everything that you've worked on has kind of influenced you to start your most recent endeavor. So diving into the world of entrepreneurship with Embrace. So people who are just listening, that's Embrace with the B being replaced with the 13 soccer number.
Yes.
Yeah. So, so building a clothing line called Embrace. Do you want to tell us a little more about it? Yeah.
So growing up, my parents always told me to roll up my sleeve. It was constantly a topic that was always being brought up. Everyone's sleeves are naturally made to be even with each other. My right arm is a little bit shorter than my left arm, so naturally the sleeve's too long. So I'd always fold my sleeve up or bunch it up to my elbow. One time my grandma even sewed the sleeve to have it just stay folded. And so as I got older, I noticed that other people that I was around and saw were also having the same issues that I was having of the sleeve that just didn't fit properly. So in the spring of my freshman year of college, I had been just laying in my bed in my dorm room, and I just got this crazy idea of, like, what if we cut the sleeve off of these shirts and had it fit people with limb differences? And I sketched everything out, and then I just put all these ideas in a notebook and, like, forgot about it. I had a bit of a moment after my freshman year of college, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I ended up transferring from the college I was at, and I met with my business teacher from senior year of high school to kind of tell her my situation. I'm like, I don't really know what I want to do. And she's like, Alexia, I know you always write some crazy ideas down in some notebooks. Why don't you open one of those and see if you have any ideas that you could bring to life? And I was like, you're right, I do have an idea that's just collecting dust. So I brought the idea of Embrace out, and I started officially, like, moving forward with it in the fall of 2022. And from there, I did a lot of fundraising. I participated in business competitions. I filed for a patent that started pending on April 3rd of 2023, and it has been published since then. So Embrace sells adaptive clothing for people with limb differences. We offer clothes on both the right and left side for the upper body and lower body. I broke it down based off of the shoulder, elbow, and wrist lengths. And for the lower body, the hip, knee, and shin lengths. And for the hip length, you can actually buy it open or closed. If you have a prosthetic and you have, like, the attachment around your hip area, you can put it on still. So that's kind of how this started, and just been going from there.
We are grateful for the support of our first show sponsor. Resolution Fitness offers leading brand health club equipment and accessories for residential and commercial use. In addition to traditional exercise equipment, they specialize in adaptive fitness products and wheelchair-accessible machines. If you're interested in outfitting your fitness facility or home gym to be more accessible, visit www.resolutionfitness.ca or the link in the show notes below.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, because obviously there's so much heterogeneity within limb difference that, like, I guess the hardest thing I would imagine, obviously I've never started a clothing line, is the scalability of it and just the production of things. And when you have something that's really unique per person, it gets harder to streamline and scale. So yeah, I guess I hadn't even considered, like, measuring from the elbow to the wrist, etc., and all those things. But I guess what is kind of the next step in terms of trying to manufacture more or reach more people?
Yeah, right now I'm trying to see what style people are looking for. Right now I'm just selling the average like long sleeve shirt like what I'm wearing and then sweatpants. But I want to expand so one day Embrace is filling your closet with adaptive clothing, so everything you put on that day, you feel confident in what you're wearing. It's not an inconvenience. For me, my sleeve was always too long. I've slammed it in car doors because it was too long. It gets wet when you're washing your hands. That inconvenience. We're actually dropping next Friday. We will be dropping youth shirts. So some of them will have like dinosaur designs or baseballs. There's princess ones. There's a bunch of options. So we're starting with kids clothes right now, hoping to expand to like more casual, business casual, stuff like that. Yeah.
You're early in the journey, but kind of what have you learned so far? What have been some of the highs and maybe what are some of the biggest challenges?
Yeah, so I think money is a big one. I'm in college, so I'm college students don't make a ton of money. Mm-hmm. Starting a business in college is a lot. I've learned some hard lessons, but honestly, just staying positive throughout it all. It's a lot. I would be lying to you if I told you that I didn't want to give up multiple times because it's a lot. You don't know if it's going to work. You don't know how people are going to be receptive of it. So just staying positive and knowing that I just want to help people. I want people to have a problem that I know I have had my entire life. I want that problem to disappear for other people too. So right now I'm just trying to see what the people are looking for. I put the idea out there. Now I want to know what other people are thinking about it.
Yeah, every good business solves a problem. Not just a good idea, but it actually provides a solution for people who need it. How many, I guess, do you have a decent idea of the market size? Like how many people have limb differences similar to you? Are there a lot of people that could benefit from this?
Yeah, so the numbers last year, I believe there was around 7 million people in the U.S. living with limb differences, and that number is increasing from cancer, diabetes, just accidents, stuff like that. Then you tie in maybe veterans and people who served. There's a bunch of different factors than just that are happening. But on my end, the need is still there. So that's definitely something that I've been trying to regulate as well and see what pockets of the limb difference community I could tap into and see who would like it.
I think did I read that you were hopefully designing some like athletic wear as well for some of the amputee sports, or like hoping to make jerseys maybe of some sorts?
Yeah, so I'm hoping like to help all sorts of teams in the future if they reach out, if they're willing to work with me and see if they can just solve a problem of just comfort in a jersey. I think that would be super cool. Yeah. I was working with Hanger Clinic in June and we were playing wheelchair basketball. I never played that before. And some of the people had long pants on and there was no leg. And I was like, isn't this dangerous? You have a huge pant leg and there's nothing filling it. And they're like, yeah, it's scary. And I was like, I'd love to work with you sometime, So I didn't even think about even wheelchair sports, it's
getting that extraneous sleeve like caught in something.
Yeah, or like, in a wheel. In the chair. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess not all businesses have to be infinitely scalable. You can still be thriving and sustainable on a smaller consumer base. And if this is a problem that people need, from their everyday clothes to their business clothes to their athletic wear, then there's a lot of different SKUs, I guess, that you can create for them that kind of solves that problem.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with anyone else that's doing anything similar in like the clothing space or the shoe? I know sometimes like FlyEase, like Nike released accessible shoelace.
Yeah.
But I've seen a little bit of adaptive clothing stuff pop up, but hopefully that trend continues.
Yeah. Tommy Hilfiger, they were one of them. In Zappos Adaptive, they have some adaptive clothing out there as well. When I was looking at it, it's more like magnets replacing buttons type of situation, zippers. Velcro was a big one too, which is great, but I didn't see too much that was in the realm of solving a sleeve that was just too long. Yeah. So there definitely is adaptive clothing out there, if I might have missed it, but I haven't seen anything yet that has been on the market similar to what we're selling. So.
And how does it work with the manufacturer? Because they're probably not used to making different like limbs. So have you found one that's willing to like customize it?
Yeah. So right now I'm the manufacturer. I sew the clothes. I have talked with manufacturers, but I am not at the point where I have enough sales yet to be working with a manufacturer. It's definitely a crazy idea. I can't tell you. I think last spring, it was spring of 2023, I think I called 90 manufacturers in one day, and 50 of them didn't answer. 20 of them hung up on me after I told them, and the one guy, he laughed at me and said, "You're crazy," and then he hung up the phone. So I'm like, this is the first of its kind product on the market, and I have just kind of accepted that I will be the one making it until I find exactly what I need, because right now it's a little bit easier. I can cater a little bit to someone if they're coming to me. Obviously, that can't be the case for very long, but for right now, we're making everything by hand. So
well, I would imagine you can tell some great stories, like social wise, and just in terms of like the messages that you put out from people that benefit from this. Because at the end of the day, it's like any business, you're trying to grow an audience and grow a consumer base. And if someone wants to support it or kind of learn about or maybe purchase an item, where can they go?
Yeah, so Embrace has a website. It's called embrace.com. The B is a 13, so when you're searching it, make sure you put the 13 in there. But we sell regular t-shirts, so if you do not have a limb difference, feel free to purchase a shirt. We also have all of our other products as well on there. We have social media. You can find us at Embrace on Instagram and Facebook. We do have a TikTok, but it's still being worked on, so it's there if you want to follow it. But we do have a website. Feel free to check it out. If you do end up buying something, anyone who's watching this or listening to this, please send us a picture of you wearing it, because we love to see the smiles on people's face, or just you rocking in your shirt. We don't have to post it. We just want to know how you like the shirt, or pants. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you for listening to the AdaptX Podcast. Our effort to amplify the ideas of our guests and create more inclusive and accessible industries is futile unless these episodes reach a larger audience. If you enjoyed our discussion today, please leave us a rating or a review on whichever platform you use. And if you would like to learn more about AdaptX, the course that we teach to health and fitness professionals and the projects that our organization is working on, you can subscribe to our newsletter through our website, www.adaptx.org. Until next Monday.